Greetings, my dear viewers. It is I, your host, Drehorn, back once again with another character conversion. Now, quick disclaimer. There's a good number of you that are probably new to my channel. In this series, Character Conversion, I go to all forms of fiction, whether it be a book, a TV show, or a video game. I take a character from there and show what they would be like in the Dungeons and Dragons style, or maybe even Pathfinder if I can ever figure out its rulings. I do not go off of the mechanics of the class that I use. I don't go by the mechanics of the background I use. I simply go by the lore of the character and how that matches with the lore of those classes or backgrounds. For example, I had a comment on my Danny Phantom video asking a question about why I did not use a certain class. It is because that class didn't fit the lore of Danny, while a class's feature may have matched up with Danny's abilities. It did not match with his lore. It is why I used the Blood Hunter as his main class. Not for the powers. While the powers did match, it was mostly for the lore. That's why in that video I did the Ghost Slayer Order of the Blood Hunter. Anyway, we're getting off track. That's my little disclaimer there. Lore, not mechanics. Ready? Let's go ahead and get started with the next video. Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragons. This series is very good. And fun fact, it is actually a book series that came out way before the movies did, or even the TV show. I have not read the books. I might read the books in the future, but I have not read the books. Now, Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon is what one would consider a runt in any other form of life form. How to Train Your Dragon is set in the Viking era, and he is in a clan of Vikings. So everyone is big and muscular, while Hiccup is just weak. Of course, the Vikings have a problem with dragons, yada yada yada. You probably already know this story. So, let's go ahead and just begin. Because I kind of want to see what Hiccup would be like. Alright, so starting off as usual with the stats. We always use the point buy system. Strength is going to be our dump stat, because he's so weak. However, dexterity is going to be one of our higher stats at a 13. Constitution is going to be a baseline of 10 because he can technically take a hit, but not that well. Intelligence is going to be our highest stat. What he lacks in brawn, Hiccup does have in brains, because he was able to tame a dragon. Well, technically domesticate, but that's a different story. Wisdom is going to be 14. He has learned a lot when he has been researching dragons, including, well, how to spot them. Because there are some dragons that are good at hiding. So it takes some high wisdom to be able to at least spot something that looks not quite ordinary. Charisma is going to be a 12, which gives it a +1 modifier. He's not that great with communication. But he did manage to get the girl in the end, so I guess it's a 50-50 split. Alright, of course, Hiccup is a human. We're always going with the variant human for these builds. This will give us a +1 to 2 of our stats. We're going to go with a +1 to our intelligence and a +1 to our charisma, which doesn't affect it too much. For our skill, I would say grabbing the nature skill is a good option, since we can't exactly hunt dragons if you don't know nature. For the feat, I would go with the observant feat, because you're going to need that, especially if you are just walking along in the forest. You got to be able to see some form of abnormalities, like a track or a broken stick or something. Maybe the rustling of bushes. For languages, Common and Dwarvish are going to be my suggestions for your languages, just because, well, just because. No real reason behind it. Also, the Observant feat does give you a +1 to your intelligence modifier. So that's also something to think about. Moving on to background. Since he is part of a clan of Vikings, the Uthgard tribe member makes the most sense to me. You'll get skill proficiency in athletics and survival. For tool proficiencies, you get the artisan's tools, which makes sense to me since he has been tinkering a lot. He was able to get a dragon that lost its ability to fly back. And he also got the feature Uthgard Heritage, which could prove useful. Now, for class, like I've stated previously, Hiccup is part of a Viking tribe, but he is rather weak. So, having him be a barbarian just doesn't make any sense, in my opinion. But he still needs to be able to have some use to the tribe, in his father's opinion. So, Ranger would probably be the best bet. Since he is still technically a dragon hunter, he's going to need to be able to hunt dragons. You get a D10 for your hit die. Your constitution modifier goes into 10. Ugh, I am slurring my speech, saying the wrong things. Your hit points at level 1 is 10 plus your constitution modifier, which means you're only getting 10 hit points, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. For your skills, grab animal handling, perception, and stealth. Your favored enemy as a ranger is going to be a dragon. While technically not an enemy during these movies and the show, you're still going to need the ability to track them, which makes sense. Also, go with the optional Deft Explorer. And for the languages that you gain from that, go with Gnomish and, let's say, Orcish. That kind of makes sense. Alright, now we're going straight into multi-classing as an Artificer. Now, before I continue, there are a couple of people that will probably say, Drehon, my dungeon master does not allow multi-classing. So what if I can't multi-class? What do I do then? Just go straight Artificer. Probably increase your constitution modifier instead of going with the charisma. Have charisma at a 10 while you have the constitution at a 13. That would make a little bit more sense for that pick. But straight Artificer makes sense for Hiccup. Just pick what makes the most sense for your one class type. And we're going to be encountering feats here in a moment. Some dungeon masters don't like feats, which is understandable. You technically do not need feats in order to advance as a character, especially when we're going for a character conversion. Now that that's out of the way, let's continue. You'll get a 1d8 hit die on top of your already 1d10 hit die for your ranger. For tool proficiencies, we get Thieves' Tools and Tinker's Tools since we are multi-classing. Nothing else. We get the Artificer's ability of magical tinkering and the Artificer's spell casting, which uses your intelligence modifier. Level 2 Artificer gets Infuse Item, which is pretty useful in my opinion. Moving on to level 3 Artificer, you get a Artificer Specialist. Now the one that makes the most sense to me is the Alchemist. And let me explain why. Well, at least let me explain why the others don't really make sense. Sorry, I'm eating my lunch right now. Battlemaster, Artillerist, and the new Armorer Specialists don't quite fit with Hiccup's lore. He never made a magical suit of armor. He never turned sticks into magic guns. And he doesn't have a robot sidekick. So none of that truly makes sense. But the Alchemist, he has been working with the different chemical combinations, not only to use from dragons, but to use with or even against dragons. So, that's alchemy right there. I mean, for Pete's sake, he turned a sword into a flaming sword that could also produce a ring of fire whenever he wanted, just so he'd look more like a dragon to other dragons. So there's my reasoning, fair viewers. The Alchemist is your best bet for Hiccup, if you're wanting to make a Hiccup style of character. Alright, since you pick the Alchemist as your Artificer Specialist, you get Alchemist supplies as your tool proficiency. You also get some Alchemist spells, a Healing Word, and a Ray of Sickness. Also at level 3, you get the Artificer feature, the right tool for the job, which means you can produce any tool necessary for the task at hand. Like, for example, if you didn't have Alchemist supplies on you, you could make them. It would only be for a temporary use, but you can still make them. Alright, here is level 4. At level 4, we either go with the ability score improvement, or we can go with a feat. I would say for the ability score improvement, we increase dexterity and intelligence both by 1. If you wanted to go with a feat instead, grab Mounted Combatant, because he is a Dragon Rider. And Mounted Combatant is actually a pretty good feat if you are going for that route. It's not completely necessary, but it helps you with combat while you're on your dragon mount. Alright, moving on to level 5. Thanks to our Artificer Specialist, we have Alchemical Solvent and the following Alchemist spells: Flaming Sphere and Milf's Acid Arrow. Level 6 Artificers get a Tool Expertise, which doubles our proficiency bonus for when we're using our tools. Level 7 Artificers get the Flash of Genius feature. Level 8, we get another ability score improvement or another feat. And I forgot to put in the ability score improvement. I would say your best bet is to increase your dexterity by 2, which would get you a 16. Now, if you wanted to go with a feat instead, a good one to go with is the Fighting Initiate, which will give you a fighting style from the fighter's list. Now, there are 2 choices you can go with. Archery being the main one, so you can get a +2 to your attack and damage rolls when using ranged weaponry. Another one would be blind fighting. This way you are able to see quote-unquote invisible creatures. Now this could mean that your opponent is using some very good camouflage to appear invisible, like most dragons Hiccup has faced during the TV show, which makes sense in my opinion. So blind fighting is a good one to choose. Now the great thing about the Fighting Initiate is that you can technically change your fighting style at certain points. I think it's when you are leveling up to another ability score improvement or something. You can swap out your fighting style, but you can still get your ability score improvement or an extra feat if you desire. It's just an option you have. Now for our final level, we're going to take Artificer once again to level 9, which gives us Restorative Regents. Regents. We'll say Regents. I'm not good at pronouncing things. All in all, it's a very good build. I would say you should keep Hiccup as an Artificer as much as you can. I don't think there is a reason to go any further into the Ranger class. Maybe go with a Fighter as another multi-class option. But the Artificer is pretty good, especially when you can attune to multiple magic items, and even further, attune to any magic item you wish, no matter the restriction. Those restrictions will not apply to an Artificer. So you could take a magic item like the Holy Avenger or certain cloaks that are reserved for spellcasters. Or a Paladin Cleric item, which would make a whole heck of a lot of a difference, especially when you're fighting much larger dragons than you. Well, I think that's going to do it for today, viewers. Apologies for the late upload. I was quite busy yesterday. I do hope it does not happen in the future, but I've been looking into getting a house. So, fingers crossed. Anyway, that's all for today. I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. This has been Drehan, and I am offline. Who would you like to see next? Make sure to leave a comment down below, and tell me what you thought. And who you'd like to see in the future.